I hired a private investigator to follow my fiancé, and he sent me photos of the exact moment I lost my family. I need to start there because everything before that moment feels like a lie. I was happily living. My name is Maya, and until 3 months ago, I was planning the perfect autumn wedding to the perfect man, Mark. We'd been together for 7 years. He was steady, successful, and he had a laugh that could actually fix a bad mood. Everyone loved Mark. Everyone. That's important. I come from a big, close knit, slightly suffocating family. My parents, my brother Alex, his wife, and their 3 kids, we all live within 10 minutes of each other. Mark didn't just join my life, he fully merged into the family unit. He and Alex were inseparable. They were the co captains of the annual Thanksgiving football game, they invested in a terrible fantasy football league together, and they even bought identical backyard grills. My parents treated Mark like the son they never had, a compliment they never quite extended to my actual brother Alex. My mother especially adored him. She'd call him the rock of the family, the dependable one. When Mark proposed last Christmas, my mom cried harder than I did. It was perfect, just like the life I thought I was inheriting. The doubt started small, like a tiny scratch on a perfect glass window. It was the wedding planning. Every time I got excited about a venue or a dress, Mark would seem distant. He wasn't participating, he was tolerating. When I asked him to look at the seating chart, he'd snap, "I trust your judgment, Maya, just handle it." It was the opposite of the enthusiastic partner I thought I had. Then came the phone calls. Mark started keeping his phone locked, face down. One night, I saw a text notification pop up, just the first line before it vanished. "Did she ask you about it? We need to talk." It wasn't the content that killed me, it was the sender's name. It was from a contact saved only as M. I asked him about it casually the next morning. "Who's M?" He looked up from his coffee, his face a perfect mask of confusion. "M? Oh, that's Michael from the office. We're working on the Johnson accounts." I let it go. Why wouldn't I? Mark didn't lie. He was my rock. But the scratch was now a crack. The calls continued, the secrecy tightened. Mark started leaving the house every Tuesday and Thursday evening, claiming he was hitting the gym or working late at his downtown office. I checked the credit card statement a week later. The gym membership hadn't been used in 2 months, and his office building closed at 7 p.m. He wasn't home until 10:30 p.m. The logical part of my brain screamed, "Don't be that woman. Don't ruin your happiness." But the wedding dress felt heavy in the closet, and the silence in the evenings felt deafening. I needed proof to silence the doubts, or proof to confirm the nightmare. Either way, I needed the truth to move forward. I didn't trust myself, so I called a private investigator named Frank. Frank was a quiet man in a terrible tweed jacket. I felt so pathetic sitting across from him, explaining that my fiancé was acting weird before our 6-figure wedding. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just handed him the details: Mark's license plate, his Tuesday, Thursday routine, and the address of his office. "I just need to know where he is between 7 and 10, I told Frank. "If he's at a bar with clients, fine. If he's at another woman's house, I need photos." Frank just nodded and gave me a flat rate. He said he'd text me the updates. The next Tuesday, the text started. At 7:05 p.m., Frank sent the first photo. Mark's car parked on a quiet side street in the suburbs, 10 miles away from his office. At 7:30 p.m., another photo. Mark walking up the driveway of a small, charming house. The tension was paralyzing. I finally knew he was seeing someone. The pain was immediate, sharp, and expected. I spent the next 2 hours staring at the walls, waiting for the devastating proof: the photo of them holding hands, the kiss, the final confirmation of my destroyed future. At 9:45 p.m., my phone buzzed with a final text from Frank. There were 3 attachments. The text read, "Got what you asked for. You'll want to sit down for this. I'm stopping the surveillance now." I opened the first photo. It was a clear shot of Mark in the living room of that house. He was laughing, looking relaxed, but he wasn't alone. The second photo was a wide shot. Mark was sitting on a couch. The woman was sitting next to him, her head resting on his shoulder. It wasn't someone I knew. I felt sick. This was it. The other woman. But the third photo, that was the one that stopped my heart. It was a close-up of the woman's hands, which were draped over a baby bump. She was pregnant. Mark was gently resting his hand over hers. And that's when I saw the familiar, specific birthmark on her wrist, a tiny splash of brown that looked like a bird taking flight. I knew that wrist. I knew that birthmark. I'd seen it a million times. The woman he had been building a secret life with, the woman who was carrying his child, was my brother Alex's wife, Melissa.
I didn't scream. I didn't break down into hysterical sobs. I just sat on my kitchen floor, staring at that tiny birthmark on Melissa's wrist, the one I'd traced with my finger 100 times at family parties, the one I'd always thought was unique to her. It was a detail so intimate, so undeniably Melissa, that it rendered any denial impossible. My first thought wasn't about Mark. It was about Alex, my big brother, the loud, goofy one who loved Melissa so completely. They had been high school sweethearts. They were the couple we all measured ourselves against. Melissa was the mother of his children, the anchor of his life, and she was having his best friend's baby. I felt physically cold, like all the warmth had been sucked out of the house. I picked up my phone and paid Frank, the investigator, double. I didn't even type a message. I just transferred the money. His job was done. My life was undone. I didn't confront them immediately. I had to know how deep the lie went, how they had managed this for months, perhaps years, right under my family's nose. I looked at the surveillance date. It was Tuesday. I remembered that Tuesday clearly. Mark was at the gym. Melissa was at her weekly book club. But the worst part, that same night, Alex had called me, slightly worried because Melissa wasn't answering her phone. I had told him, "Don't worry, Alex, she's probably just deep into the new chapter." I had actively covered for her. I spent the next day preparing. I packed a small suitcase, booking a refundable room at a quiet hotel across town. I called the wedding planner and calmly postponed everything, citing unexpected work conflicts. I was methodical, cold. The sorrow hadn't hit yet. It was just a strange protective numbness. That evening, I invited Mark and Melissa over, separately. I texted Mark first. "Dinner tonight, just us. I have a surprise for you." He sounded nervous but relieved, probably thinking I was dropping the wedding stress. Then I called Melissa. I used the same bright, fake voice I had used on the phone to Frank. "Mel, Mom just dropped off some of the old family photo albums. Can you swing by and look through them? I need your help picking pictures for the centerpieces." Melissa, always eager to please my mother, agreed instantly. I set the table for 3. It was a calculated, cruel move, but I needed them both exposed in the light. Mark arrived first, around 7. He hugged me, kissed me, and poured himself a drink. He saw the table set for 3 and frowned. "Who else is coming? Alex?" he asked. I shook my head, smiling slightly. "No, Mark, someone much more important." Just then, the doorbell rang. I opened the door for Melissa, who walked in holding a cheap bottle of wine and a wide, uneasy smile. She saw Mark standing in the living room, and the smile evaporated. They exchanged a look of sheer terror that lasted only a second, but told me everything I needed to confirm. They were trapped. We sat down. The silence was thick. I waited until they were both deeply uncomfortable. Then I opened my phone and placed it face up on the table, sliding it gently toward Mark. The screen displayed the third picture Frank had sent, Mark's hand resting on Melissa's pregnant belly. I watched their faces shatter. Mark's jaw dropped. Melissa covered her mouth with a gasp, tears instantly welling up. I finally spoke, my voice low and steady. "Tell me about the ultrasound appointments you two keep missing, the wedding planner meetings." Mark stammered. "Maya, please, let me explain. It's complicated." Melissa started sobbing openly. "Maya, I'm so sorry. It just happened. It wasn't supposed to." I cut her off. "Melissa, it didn't just happen. It happened on Tuesdays and Thursdays for months while my brother was working overtime to buy your children a better life. And while I was planning a future with a man who was already building a family with my sister-in-law." Mark tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled back violently. He finally confessed, the words rushed and miserable. He said it was a mistake that became a connection he couldn't break. He claimed they were going to tell us after the baby was born. I stood up and grabbed my car keys. I didn't want their explanations. I just needed to secure the end of the world. I believe you, I said, staring at the visible swelling of Melissa's abdomen. But I'm not talking to either of you anymore. You two have tonight to figure out what you're going to tell Alex, because I'm giving him the full package tomorrow morning. I walked out the door, drove straight to the quiet hotel, and finally, I let myself break. I cried, not for the lost wedding, but for the destruction I was about to unleash on the one person who truly deserved happiness in my family, my brother, Alex. I knew he was due home from his late shift around midnight. I didn't want to tell him in person, not yet. I needed the truth to hit him when he was alone, where he could absorb the magnitude of the betrayal without my panic distracting him. I sent him a short text just before midnight. Check the shared folder on the family cloud. You need to see the photos of Melissa's book club before you go to sleep. Call me when you see them. Then I turned off my phone. I didn't want to hear the fallout. I just wanted to sleep through the explosion. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just lay in the sterile, air-conditioned silence of the hotel room, waiting for the sun to rise and for the inevitable phone call. When I finally turned my phone back on at 6 a.m., the screen exploded. Missed calls from Mark, Melissa, my parents, and a dozen texts from Alex. His text didn't contain words, just strings of question marks, exclamation points, and finally, one single message. Maya, why? I called Alex first. His voice wasn't angry or tearful. It was flat, dead. He told me he hadn't slept either. He'd seen the pictures, driven straight to the little house, and found Mark's car there. He hadn't gone inside. He just sat across the street, watching his wife and his best friend, the man who was supposed to marry his sister, huddled together, destroying his life, one hushed word at a time. He couldn't go in. He said he felt like a ghost watching his own funeral. That was the moment the pity I had for Mark evaporated, replaced by raw protectiveness for my brother. Alex filed for divorce that same day, and I was right there with him, contacting lawyers and setting up the firewall. Our family, the one I cherished, became a war zone. My parents predictably tried to mediate. They kept saying, mistakes were made, can't we think of the children? But they were talking about Melissa's 3 children with Alex and Mark's unborn child with Melissa. They weren't talking about my ruined engagement or my 15 years of lies. My mother, the woman who called Mark the Rock, was the one who hurt the most. She couldn't reconcile the dependable man she adored with the deceiver. She wanted to believe Melissa was the manipulative one, that Mark was led astray. The cognitive dissonance tore our immediate family apart. My relationship with my parents is still strained. They couldn't accept that the perfect life they envisioned for me was a farce orchestrated by their favorites. Mark didn't fight the divorce. He left our house quietly, taking only the things he needed, including the laptop bag and that second phone. He didn't even try to save himself. I sold the house 6 months later, donating the wedding dress to a charity that helps women escape abusive situations. It was the only way I could scrub the memory clean. Melissa and Mark are together now. I see their updates sometimes, accidentally, through a cousin's social media. They have the baby, a beautiful little girl who looks exactly like Mark. They live in that small, charming house in the suburbs, the one where Frank took the photos. They got their life, the secret one that was waiting in the shadows. But they lost everything else. They lost Alex, they lost me, and they lost the trust of our entire family network. They are islands now, their new life built on a ruin. As for me, I moved across the country. I needed distance, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Alex and I talk every day, and we are closer than ever, bound by this shared, terrible scar. He's building a new life, focused on his children, and I'm slowly, painfully, figuring out who Maya is without the title of Mark's fiancé. It's been 2 years. The healing is ongoing, not finished. People always ask if I regret hiring the investigator. The answer is no. Knowing the truth, no matter how catastrophic, is always better than living a comfortable lie. I lost my fiancé and my sister-in-law, yes. But the pictures Frank sent me didn't just confirm an affair. They confirmed I was living a life that wasn't real. The man I loved wasn't real, the bond he shared with my family wasn't real, and the future I planned was never going to happen. The tragedy isn't that my husband cheated. The tragedy is that my own family helped me bury me alive. And it took a grainy photograph from a private investigator to dig my way out.